We're counting down 10 lost African American recipes that shaped family and history, ranging from ingenious one-pot meals rooted in West Africa to slow-braised dishes born of resilience and desserts crafted from scarcity. Each entry reveals how tradition, adaptation, and oral storytelling kept these flavors alive. Which nearly forgotten dish earns the top spot? Let's begin the journey with number 10. On the sea islands of South Carolina and Georgia, Gullah cooks carried a memory of West Africa in every pot of red rice. Generations before, enslaved Africans arrived with rice-growing knowledge so precise that Carolina planters relied on them to turn swamps into gold. In their kitchens, Gullah women simmered rice with tomatoes, peppers, and onions, ingredients echoing jollof rice from across the Atlantic. The tomato pepper base, now a Low-Country signature, once flavored family gatherings and church suppers. Oral tradition kept the recipe alive, whispered from grandmother to granddaughter, never written down. Isolation on the islands helped preserve these methods, but outside the Low-Country, the details fade. Today, Gullah red rice stands as a living link to ancestors who transformed hardship into heritage. One pot, one memory, one meal at a time. Cracklin' bread takes humble cornbread and turns it into something rich and unforgettable. In kitchens across the Deep South, the sound of pork cracklings hitting hot cornmeal batter meant it was hog-killing time, a season when every part of the animal found its purpose. Families saved the crispy bits left after rendering pork fat, folding them into cornmeal rations and a splash of buttermilk. The secret to the perfect crust was a preheated cast-iron skillet, so hot the batter sizzled on contact. That skillet sear locked in flavor and created a golden edge impossible to fake. Cracklin' bread wasn't just a treat, it was a lesson in making every scrap count. Even today, it appears at rural gatherings and holiday tables, a savory reminder of ingenuity and the power of corn to stretch a meal and a memory. Chitterlings, sometimes called chitlins, require a level of patience and care that few dishes demand today. When families received the least desired cuts from the hog, the small intestines became both a challenge and a test of skill. Preparation started with hours of scrubbing, soaking the intestines in water with salt and lemon, rinsing again and again until every trace of grit was gone. Stories tell of entire households gathering around kitchen tables, each person assigned a task, scraping, rinsing, repeating, and turning a humble cleaning ritual into a kind of community lesson. Once spotless, the chitlins simmered for 3 to 4 hours, perfumed with onions, pepper flakes, and sometimes a splash of vinegar. The process filled the house with a scent that lingered long after the meal. For many, the taste was worth the work, but the real memory came from the laughter and stories traded while hands worked side by side. Oxtails, once set aside as scraps, became the heart of Sunday stews in black kitchens. The secret starts with a hard sear. Oxtails hit the bottom of a heavy pot and brown until a dark crust forms. That crust, called fond, holds deep flavor. Water, or broth, goes in next, loosening every browned bit. Over 3 hours at a gentle bubble, the tough meat softens and collagen melts into gelatin, thickening the gravy naturally. The marrow seeps out, turning the sauce silky and rich. Patience is the only shortcut here. As the pot simmers, the aroma fills the house, promising a meal worth waiting for. By the time oxtails are spooned over rice or mashed potatoes, every bite carries the reward of time and skill. Proof that the best flavors cannot be rushed, only coaxed out with care and memory. Pan-fried catfish brought the Chesapeake Bay's bounty straight to the kitchen table, seasoned with the heat of a pepper nearly lost to time. After emancipation, black watermen made up almost half the crews hauling nets along Maryland's rivers by 1864, turning catfish into a staple for their families. What set their catch apart was the fish pepper, an heirloom chili grown in backyard gardens, prized for its striped skin and a kick that lands between jalapeno and cayenne. The peppers were sliced thin and tossed into cornmeal dredge, giving each fillet a gentle burn and a speckled crust. Catfish was dipped in buttermilk, rolled in seasoned cornmeal, and fried in hot oil until the edges curled crisp. The sizzle meant dinner was close, and the aroma of pepper and fish filled the house. Saving seeds from each harvest kept the tradition alive, but as cities grew and gardens shrank, the fish pepper nearly vanished. Today, every plate of pan-fried catfish with fish pepper carries a taste of maritime labor and the quiet genius of those who worked the water and the land. Hoppin' John lands on the table every New Year's Day, carrying a promise as old as memory: black-eyed peas for luck, rice for plenty, and a little smoked pork for depth. The dish traces its roots to the rice fields of West Africa, where cooks mastered the art of one-pot meals long before crossing the Atlantic. In Senegal, a combination of beans and rice meant nourishment and good fortune. Those traditions traveled in the minds and hands of enslaved people. In the South, black-eyed peas took on new meaning, believed to bring prosperity if eaten as the first meal of the year. The beans are slow-simmered until tender but not mushy, then folded into fluffy rice, with bits of bacon or ham hock for smoky richness. Some families add a coin to the pot, a quiet wish for wealth in the coming year. Hoppin' John isn't just food. It's a ritual, a calendar marker, and a link to ancestors who found hope in every humble bowl. Hog maws and neck bone stew once brought families together, turning what others called waste into a meal rich with memory and meaning. For decades, these dishes were staples in African American kitchens and even found their way onto school cafeteria menus across the South. That changed between 1969 and 1995, when federal nutrition policies began removing off cuts like hog maws and neck bones from institutional food programs, labeling them undesirable. This quiet erasure broke a vital link. Children stopped encountering these recipes outside the home, and another thread of culinary heritage began to unravel. In many families, the only record left is a story told at the table or a taste remembered from childhood. Cooking hog maws now means relying on the memory of elders without written recipes or public recognition. The urgency to document these traditions grows with each passing year, before policy and time erase them for good. Sweet potato pie, with its deep orange custard and flaky crust, signals the heart of holiday gatherings in Black families across the South. During World War II, when sugar became scarce, cooks turned to molasses or sorghum to sweeten their pies, an old habit born from necessity, not choice. One grandmother's trick was to add a little extra cinnamon and ginger when using molasses, giving the filling a warmth that lingered long after the last bite. Sweet potato pie isn't just a dessert, it's a lesson in making do and making it delicious. The custard sets perfectly at 350 degrees, then cools on the back porch until the center barely jiggles. On Thanksgiving, this pie anchors the dessert table, a symbol of resourcefulness and celebration. Every slice carries a memory, hands mixing, stories told, and the quiet pride of turning humble roots into something worth sharing. Collard greens simmered with smoked turkey necks draw a line from foraged fields to fellowship halls. In the days when gardens stretched behind every house, cooks gathered armfuls of greens, collards, turnip, mustard, washing away grit, then piling them high in a big pot. Before the Great Migration, ham hocks or salt pork flavored the greens. But as families moved north, turkey necks took their place, bringing the same smoky depth without the heaviness. 2 hours on the stove transforms tough leaves into silk, releasing a broth called pot liquor, so prized that elders sipped it straight, believing it could cure what ailed you. At church fundraisers, the smell of greens cooking signaled homecoming, drawing neighbors with promises of tender leaves and good company. On Juneteenth, a pot of greens meant freedom celebrated in every bite. Even now, when convenience foods threaten to erase the slow simmer, every batch cooked from scratch is a small act of remembrance and care. Smothered pork chops begin with a cast iron skillet heated until a drop of water dances across the surface. Pork chops go in next, 3 minutes per side, just long enough to build a golden crust and leave behind a layer of fond that flavors everything to come. An elder once said that you should brown them until the pan talks back to you. Sliced onions hit the skillet, scraping up those browned bits as they soften and caramelize. A splash of vinegar or hot sauce brings balance, cutting through the richness and brightening the gravy. The chops return, tucked beneath a blanket of onions and broth, then covered and left to braise for half an hour until tender. The aroma signals when it's ready, meat yielding to a fork, gravy thick and glossy. Mastering this dish means keeping a tradition alive, one that turns the ordinary into the unforgettable. Across all 10 dishes, one pattern stands out. African American cooking is an act of preservation and transformation. These recipes prove that resilience turns humble ingredients into heritage. Today, reviving them keeps history alive, one plate at a time. Which tradition would you bring back to your table?